There are many different photographers scattered all over the world, but one man in particular stood out to me. This man's name is actually Steve Mccurry. Steve Mccurry was actually born on April 23rd, 1950, in Darby, Pennsylvania. Steve Mccurry is actually still alive to this day, and right now he is standing at 69 years old. Now, something that is definitely interesting to me is the fact that you can't actually find much about his past on the internet. Never really talks about his family or really any personal side of his life. Which is interesting because most of these photographers actually do talk about that kind of stuff in interviews and multiple other sources. That still brings me to the next question, which is why? Maybe he just doesn't want his life out there into the public? Steve Mccurry actually attended the College of Arts and Architecture at Pennsylvania State University to study filmmaking. And during this process of him actually studying filmmaking, he actually did photography for the college newspaper. He then graduated with a degree in theater and arts in 1974. Though it's not really clear why Steve actually wanted to start photography, we can actually dig in a little bit further and see that he was actually looking for a filmmaking job. At the filmmaking job, he was probably thinking to himself, this is actually kind of cool. He also was a very, very nice person, meaning he probably had a passion for some sort of photography. A photography that can inspire, change the lives of other people. After his filmmaking job, he actually then decided to move to India. He got a one-way train to India, and he only had a bag of clothes with him and a single film. Hi everybody, it's me, Austin from the future. So while editing this, I realized something. This man really likes India. Like really likes India. He likes Afghanistan and he's obsessed with these places. In a good way, by the way. I'm not being mean on him or anything. But he said in this interview here on a place I won't mention because of controversy, that after his newspaper job, he actually went to India and he was planning to stay there for like a month. And apparently he stayed there for 2 years just because he liked it that much. And then when he returned home, back to his home state, he actually went back to Afghanistan a month later just because he liked it so much. So honestly, this man just really loves Afghanistan, India, all these different places. So that's kind of cool and something interesting to know about him. He said when you step into India, it's like stepping into a whole new world. Very interesting. Yeah. Alright, anyway, back to the video I edited back in the past. Peace out. Once he got to India, he started doing photography there. That is when his career actually took off. The camera that Steve actually uses today is the Nikon D810, which, if you know, is a digital camera. Now, the typical subject matter that Steve Mccurry actually shot photos of was of people going through a rough time. People who are in poverty, all of these bad things happening to people. And then he also shot people having a good time, people enjoying their life, people having fun. Those were the two main subject matters that Steve actually took photos of. I go ahead and say that the technique that Steve actually uses for photography is a very cinematic but simple look. Definitely has a very cinematic vibe to it. He also likes to use a lot of different angles. We can also see in a lot of his images that he actually uses the rule of thirds, which, as you know, the rule of thirds make you focus on that subject over everything else. The purpose of Steve's photographs is to shed light on people having a hard time in their life and then people having a fun, easy, and great time in their life. It's showing two sides of the spectrum. This is what can happen to you, and this is what can happen to you. It's also showing that you should always be thankful for what you have. Because there are other people in the world who are going through this side of things rather than this side of things. There are people in the world who are going through bad things instead of good things. So if you're in a good place, you should always be thankful for what you have in there. Steve Mccurry is really what brought up the culture vibe, the whole culture photography scene. He shoots a lot of photos showing different people from different cultures from different areas around the world. These were really, really good photos, which is probably why he has earned a ton of respect and a ton of awards. One of Steve's most popular photos that he has ever taken is known as Afghan Girl. And this is what it looks like right here, and it is a very stunning photo. This was actually shot in 1984. One thing that you can obviously see that Steve is trying to make you guys really focus on is the eyes are very sharp, and you can definitely see them above everything else. It gives you that really feel and that emotion, which I believe is what led this photo to be one of the most popular photos in history. The impact that I think Steve had on society and overall the world in general is he showed many, many more people that they should be thankful for what they have because other people are going through a hard time. That's not all he showed. He also showed them what other cultures are like, and to always come together as one. One of the quotes that Steve actually said was, "My life is shaped by the urgent need to wander and observe, and the camera is my passport." What he's saying is he has this life that he wants to take a hold of. He wants to go explore. He wants to go see more. And his camera is allowing him to do all those things. The reason I chose this photographer is because I really, really thought that their images, that their photos were actually really interesting. I think it's really cool that someone can just go exploring around the world, India, all of these cool places, and really just take some inspiring photos with the single touch of a camera. Inspire millions of people around the world. I think his photos are unique. They have soul to them. They have light to them. I then went to go ahead and try and recreate some of his photos, or really the general idea of his photos. These are the two that I came up with. I think I did okay to form the sort of style that Steve actually forms, that really dead center focus on the eyes, and of course just the subject itself. That is really what Steve goes for. That is the photographer I researched, Steve Mccurry, and if you guys want to go check more out about him, he does have a website called stevemccurry.com. You guys can check more out about him there and see tons and tons of images that he has created.